Hey everybody, welcome to the Weakly Poro Podcast. This is a brand new podcast focused around Riot's new deck building game, Legends of Runeterra. My name is Smithel, along with my co-host Cozer. We're hoping to launch this off to get you listeners a better grasp of the game, provide you with a little bit of information that you need to maybe climb the ladder, do a little bit better on your expeditions to help maximize those rewards. But before we really dig into any of that kind of information, I want to give you a little bit of background of who we are. So let me stop right here and just say, hey, Kozer, how you doing?
What's
How's
up?
everything going tonight?
Great, great.
You excited to get everything kicked off? I know, kind of, we've been talking about this for a while.
Oh, of course I am. This is gonna be a lot of fun.
I hope so. I hope so. I mean, like I said, it's something that this has kind of been a labor of love for us for a while.
Hmm.
We've been together for a little bit of time. I know my background is I met Kozer through Chair League for Heroes of the Storm.
Yep.
Then we moved on to Nexus Gaming Series. I became an admin. He moved into it as well there. We both exited around the same time from HOTS. Kind of both left the game altogether, retired from that. Mine was primarily for family reasons. I started to have a family, needed to spend more time with the kids. They're starting to grow up now, which is nice. It gives me a little bit of time to dive back into gamings. And when Riot released or announced, I guess, just recently, their kind of venture into the digital card game world and library, it was kind of a big deal to me. And I said, oh, this is a good opportunity. I want to dive back in and really start help developing this community. But, Koza, what about you?
Well, I started playing video games a while ago. I mostly played Call of Duty for a really long time until, yes, I switched over to HOTS, played that for 2 years, met you in Chair League, NGS, all that shit. Tried to go pro. Didn't really try that hard. Didn't really work out.
Yeah. It didn't help that they killed that scene for you either.
Well, that was the next part I was gonna say. Is the real reason why I exited is once they announced that HEC was dead, I was completely done with the game. I just did not want to play it anymore or support them. Played Diablo 3 for a little bit, got kind of tired of that. Switched over to League of Legends. That's a whole different story.
I mean, in Riot, I mean, I know you said you played Diablo. I mean, in their 10-year kind of anniversary video, they did tease something that looked
Yep,
very Diablo-ish.
RPG.
So yeah,
Yep.
I'm interested to see kind of how that plays out. I would love to see a Diablo-like game in the Riot universe. That they've kind of started to build and expand upon. So, I want to hear more about what that's going to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Like from the looks of it, it looks like it's going to be like the Runeterra lore, so that's going to be really really cool. They haven't really released much about it compared to a lot of the other stuff they showed. They just basically said we're making an RPG. They're
Yeah,
also
yeah.
like making a tabletop game too, apparently. But I looked into it the other day. It looks kind of cool, but there's not much info on it.
Yeah, they have one out now, and it's one that I've been meaning to try. It's called Mechs versus Minions, I think, and I saw it, gosh, maybe a year ago or so. And at first, I didn't even realize it was a Riot game, and it only kind of hit me recently. So, I know it's not their first time in to kind of develop that way, but this is, I think, with Legends of Runeterra, their first real big jump away from the League of Legends scene, which is something that I play
Yeah,
a ton of. I love League of Legends. I'm always going to be kind of a MOBA fan at heart. You know, and
they're
so
just so tilt worthy though. A lot of MOBA games, you rely a lot on your teammates, and that's why I kind of moved away from League of Legends. It was I
yeah,
don't know. League of Legends can be pretty toxic depending on what elo you're in.
it can be. I mean, for me, it's always about finding one or two people that I like to play with, and then just
Yeah.
kind of turning off all chat. And that's been kind of good. But it's always one of those things I always tell people that League of Legends is very much one of those games that you don't like to play it, but because like 90% of the time you're just angry and trying to
Tilt
push
it.
through and get
Yep.
a win, and you lose and it feels terrible. But when you get that victory, like that quick rush of adrenaline, you're like, I just gotta play more. Like this feels so good when everything is going
Yeah.
right that there's nothing like it. But I mean, like Hearthstone, things like that, those types of like digital card games,
Uh,
Gwent, Magic. I mean, all that kind of stuff is something that's always been interested in me. I mean, I played Yu-Gi-Oh and all that kind of stuff a ton as a kid. The Pokemon trading card game.
yeah.
So I mean, it was just a natural fit. And so whenever they announced this at that same time of saying, "Hey, we're releasing a new game," and it's the first one that's coming out outside of League, it was a huge surprise to me, and something that I know you've been equally excited about.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like I was really, really stoked when I heard about it. I was like, okay, I'm gonna try my first card game. I've never played a card game before. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so I played the beta, got invited like to the second one, the expedition one, the one that you got invited to too. But like
Yes.
right away, the first day, I got invited, so I played it, and I played like for like a week. I loved it. Then it went away, and I literally tried, I swear, every card game. I
Mm-hmm.
tried Magic. I tried 2 or 3 phone game versions of cards. I deleted them. I tried Hearthstone. It angered me. A lot of those games are all just pay to play, and they're really, really frustrating to play. I played the
Yeah,
Pokemon card game. That was fun. The
yeah.
online
I
one.
mean, there's nothing that just quite scratches the itch, at least for me, that the developers of this game have been able to, come up with. I mean, nothing feels pay to win, like you said. Like that was my biggest issue with Hearthstone is I felt that if I didn't drop $100 on day one of when a new expansion came out, you would be so far behind because everybody's just playing these meta decks and these S tier decks, and if you didn't do it, you just couldn't keep up with them. And here, and we'll talk about it a little bit later, so I don't want to jump ahead too much, but the developers of Legends of Runeterra have made it in such a way that everybody, especially here at the beginning, is on relatively even footing, and you can't you know pay to win. You can't pay to get everything and get that S tier deck out out the gate, which I understand maybe a little frustrating for streamers or people that make their living or
Yeah.
make a career out of this because they want to have the flexibility, they want to show off everything in the game. But it's great for people like me that sit there and say, hey, there's Swim or there's another, big name player in this community that has a deck and I can't build it, but what can I do?
Yeah.
What can I put into his deck that is going to, have a similar effect? And it's that kind of, creativity that you're seeing kind of going from everybody that's huge. Something that is
Yeah,
really interesting to me.
yeah, it's really different. Like I said, compared to the other card games I tried, um, it's it's nice that there's no pay to win mechanic. Yes, it's a little frustrating that you can't
Hmm.
exactly make the deck you want, but to fix it for pros, I think it's pretty simple. They just
Hmm.
make it so that when you challenge people, they need to make basically a tournament lobby, like where you can scrim your friends, and it unlocks all the cards in the game, and you just make as many decks as you want, and kind of like how you do that in, I don't know, Call of Duty. When you're in custom games, you have every gun attachment, you have everything. You don't have to unlock everything. Everything's there, and you just basically build your class how you want it. They kind
Yeah.
of need to do something like that in this, for it to work, at least for competitive, because then players can come over from Hearthstone. They don't need to grind this game for 2 weeks, 3 weeks just to be able to play. They'll
Hmm.
be able to play and then jump into scrims against other people and really play like strong, powerful
Yeah.
decks and learn how to build.
Yeah, I get you. I get you. So, I know we're kind of talking about like building decks and everything like that. So, before we dive a little bit deeper into this, I know that for the listeners, since this is new, we're calling this episode 0 in our mind because a lot of what we go over here is going to be very, very basic. If you've been playing the game, but it's more of a way to get to know us. Maybe people that kind of stumble across this and say, hey, what is Legends of Runeterra? Should I dive into it? Is it something that I should give a shot? This is going to give you a nice little outline. We're also going to kind of talk a little bit about what we plan to do with the show, and then we're going to try to release, pretty regularly. So basically, the goal of this show, Kozer and I are hopefully every week going to aim to focus on multiple aspects of Legends of Runeterra. I mean, we're going to be covering things such as, what the current meta is, what decks there are there any good budget decks? We talked about, hey, if you jump in here, you're not going to be able to build from day one every single current meta deck right away. So you're going to have to come up with some sort of budget idea. Um, so we want to cover a little bit about that. There's something in here called expeditions. Again, we're going to talk about those a little bit later here too. Maybe give some tips for people that like to play that as opposed to the constructed scene, like the ladder scene that way. Obviously, this is a game that Riot has been pretty vocal about for releasing, regular patches on and adjustments and balances, especially during the open beta that's currently going on. So as the patch notes come out, we want to make sure that we're highlighting, what's changing, what they're releasing. That way, you, the listeners, are able to, better maximize your time. If that makes any kind of sense. And then, whatever various, news that we come across. If there's a good interview, if there's
Yeah.
something that Riot releases regarding the game, or even Riot in general, we want to make sure that we cover that. Obviously, since this is a pretty lore-heavy game, which is odd because you don't see that a lot of times in these deck building games.
Yeah, that's true.
They may release something into League of Legends, and it'll be exciting to sit there and say, "Oh my God, this would build great into a control deck," just the way that the champions' abilities are. So it'd be kind of neat to kind of almost theory craft what could come over here. Did I miss anything? Cozer, as to what you think the goal would be?
Well, also for the goal, like once there is a competitive scene and that kind of starts, and tournaments and stuff, I will be following quite a bit of it. Like I'm not going to be trying to go into the pro scene or anything like that, but I do know a couple of ex-HOTS players that are playing this game, and I followed a couple of card game players from like Hearthstone and stuff that are switching over to Legends of Runeterra, it seems like. So I'll be
Yeah.
following that scene quite a bit, and once there's a little bit more tournament info, then I'll be able to go a little bit more into that, about talking about like tournaments that people can enter if they're interested or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's kind of what's nice. Hopefully, the listeners are gonna come to learn from us is that while we see eye to eye on a lot of things, what we focus on and what we think is important a lot of times isn't always a one for one. Like you said, like you're very much more into the pro scene than I think I will ever be.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it's more about like, oh, I love this deck. I love theory crafting. I love seeing what's coming out from the pros, but not like, oh, who's number one in the world or
And I
anything
just
like
love
that.
the meta. That's basically what it
Yeah,
comes down to.
yeah, and I know I'm much more of a an expedition person compared to you. Like you like climbing ladder, and to me, it's almost like, hey, I'm waiting every week to get that token so I can go in and try expedition and try a little bit of that.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's kind of nice. Whenever we sit there and talk about the show too, I know we're trying to keep about 30 minutes to an hour.
Yep.
For everybody, and I'm sorry if you just lost my camera and my computer while I'm asleep, but 30 minutes to an hour is our kind of goal length. Ideally we're going to release once a week. By Fridays is when we're hoping to get everything out to you in video format on YouTube. We're going to be releasing across all of your major podcast services. So we're talking iTunes, we're talking about Google Podcasts, all of that kind of good stuff. So wherever you're
Stitcher,
getting
Spotify,
Stitcher, Spotify, uh,
SoundCloud.
yeah, everything. Basically, if there's something that you wanted on, let us know, and we're happy to try everything in our power to do that.
Absolutely.
Basically, like I said, this is a show for the listeners. If you come across this and it's easier for you to have it on a certain platform, we're gonna do that. Eventually we're gonna be trying to stream this on Twitch. Whenever we start building a little bit more of a following that way, but they will be on YouTube, so they'll be archived in that way. And when we talk about following too, the biggest way to follow and know what's going on with the show and what's going on as far as release dates, what we're going to be covering, show notes, Discord links, whatever the thing may be, you can find us on Twitter. The account is Poro Weakly, so it is a little bit of a play on words. So you're going to search for @Poro Weakly, and that's going to be weekly with an A, WEAKLY. Basically, like Poros, they're generally weak in this game, but they actually can do a lot of stuff. So we kind of thought it was a little fun pun on words. So if you look on us, if you look up at that Twitter account, you should see the Twitter for the Weakly Poro Report. Follow us there. You'll see my account. You'll see Cozer's account as well. Feel free to follow us there. Ask us any kind of questions. Obviously, if you have a question and you submit it there, submit it through the Discord. If it's something good and we think the community may have a benefit to know, we will happily discuss it and bring it in.
Yeah, for sure.
This is supposed to be like a labor of love and back and forth with anybody that wants to listen. We understand at the beginning there may not be a lot, so you may just be hearing what we think is important. But again, the more input you guys given to us, the better. Would you agree, Kozer?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, big time. Like with the Discord too. Make sure you join that. We're gonna be building a community. We have a lot of information in there, like Twitter posts that are coming from us, Twitter posts that are coming from straight from Legends of Runeterra. We're going to try to keep up, like, there isn't a patch bot right now, but eventually there will be one for Legends of Runeterra. So all the patch notes will always be in there live right when they come up on the RSS feed for LOR.
Yeah, and I know you mentioned too before, like, you love tournaments, you love kind of crafting those, being part of those. So I mean, if you're part of the Discord too,
We
we're
might
probably going to be just running tournaments,
just little fun ones, yeah.
within the community. Yeah, I mean, there may not be a prize involved, but there's communities that are going on too. That it may just be like, hey, here's the weekly tournament if you want to enter and just see how you compete against other people. We'll probably be kicking those off. There may be some that we give away prizes. It doesn't look like it's too easy to do right now in game for any kind of
Not
currency.
yet. They talked about
Yeah.
it. There will be something that you'll be able to send friends like stuff. It's just like
Yes.
also like we talked about, like there's not spectating any like in it yet, but like there is in League of Legends, so I won't be surprised
Yeah.
if they add it as well.
Yeah, I have full belief that Riot's going to really be, digging into this as time goes on. So again, just keep an eye out. But so we keep talking about this game. We keep sitting there saying like what we love. But again, if you are completely new to Legends of Runeterra, you may be completely lost of everything that we've been talking about. So let's give a little bit of a very, very high level as to what the game is. And again, we're going to be breaking down very specific details of decks and mechanics in the game as we go on in various episodes. But essentially, what Legends of Runeterra is it is a digital deck building game, similar to Hearthstone, similar to Magic. You put together decks that consist of limits on basically the cards that you can have in it, the champions, which are the way I kind of view them are like legendary cards. But what's neat about them is while they all have a unique mechanic and they have ways to level up, they don't necessarily feel like they're particularly stronger or game breaking than some other legendaries that you see in other various games. I mean, it's something like you could put a Braum out there and it's a 0/5, and when it levels up, sure, it's throwing out 3/3 Poros if it's surviving damage. But there are other cards in my deck that if my Braum gets taken out, I feel perfectly comfortable playing my deck without him. It's not like that's the only chance that I win. But then there's decks like, like in a Cozer, you're trying to build a Fiora deck with like a one-turn kill, where she is very critical to have on the board.
Yeah. Where
Yeah,
she
so
can't die, you have to keep her alive. That's the whole point of the barriers. You basically always need 3 mana to keep a barrier on her, or she's dead.
Yeah, so I mean, it's neat in the mechanic that they do there. So it's a deck building game. It is free to play. They limit currently the amount of pay to win mechanics that are in place. So what they have is a thing called wild cards. So where other various deck building games, you're opening booster packs or loot crates or something like that, and you're just getting a random selection of cards. That isn't in here in this game as something that you can spend real world currency on. So what they do is you go into the store and you can buy cosmetics, like you can buy like little guardians, boards, you can build all this kind of good stuff, cosmetics, or you can buy what are wild cards. And essentially what that is you're spending real world money to get a card that you can then take and transform into anything of the same rarity. So let's say like currently in beta right now, they have it so you could buy 3 champion cards a week for I think it's like 300 gold. And so if you're sitting there and want to build a deck and you say, oh, I need Braum for this, but I don't have Braum or I don't have Tryndamere, you can just craft Tryndamere. You don't have to keep opening loot box and hopefully you get him. You can just sit there and say, this is what I need for my deck. I'm crafting it. It's done. Now, they do still have things like the vault every week that you're leveling up, and you do get random drops coming out of that.
Yeah.
Your expeditions, you get random awards from that too. So there still is a little bit of chance to the game, but it's not like I'm dumping $100 in and then I don't get anything I need except for maybe crafting materials.
Or the other side of that too is people like streamers that will drop $500 on every card during that set and literally be able to craft anything compared to someone like me who's trying Hearthstone for the first time and literally getting destroyed by dragons that they've never even seen.
Yeah, and it's nice because like they sit there and even said like, hey, look, week 1 you're not going to have everything. You're going to have to get creative about what you're doing, but by the end of maybe 3, 4, 5 weeks, you should have at least 3 or 4 decks that you feel like you can rotate between. that are pretty solid. I mean, what, this game's been out like 2 weeks now at this point, or like a week and a half.
Yeah, and I got
And
like 9 or 10 decks that I can
yeah,
use.
I'm sitting here and I rotate between about maybe three pretty consistently, but I have 4 or 5 that I can use. Like if I'm really aggro, a couple options. So I mean, you earn cards pretty quickly.
Mm,
One of the ways that they do it too is as you're kind of going throughout the week, you're getting XP. It's going into your weekly vaults to open like crates and chests and all that kind of stuff. But this is built around, as we said before, the lore from League of Legends. And so you have all these territories that are in League of Legends that the champions come from or, are going on. And you actually select one and you can change it as many times as you want. But you're leveling up a like an experience path, which is kind of
yeah.
neat. And it's saying, hey, when you reach level 1, you're just gonna get a bronze chest. It's gonna be random stuff. Level 2 is a rare wild card, 3 capsule, and
It's
and
not
as you
always
keep
like
going,
that though. It does switch around between regions.
yeah,
It's not
yeah,
always the same every region though.
yeah. But what's nice is you're sitting there and you're saying, oh my gosh, like I can get to this level. The next thing's a champion capsule. I know I'm gonna get a champion card from this region. So like, if you're crafting a deck and you say, oh my gosh, I really need Jinx and I really need to get to her. You can go figure out what region she's from, go through that basically that region line and get to the cards that are going to help build you the deck. So you can really pick and choose, if you're trying to build a certain deck, and increase your chances of getting cards from that region that maybe you're going to complete the deck that you want done. Which I think is at least a pretty cool mechanic. I don't know about you, but
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, I love that about the expedition, or not the expedition, the
mm-hmm.
switching between the regions. Like the most important thing to remember, especially if you're a new player listening, is level up to 8 on every single one before you
Mm-hmm.
really pick a region that you're gonna go with and
Mm-hmm.
unlock, because you'll unlock a champion capsule.
Yeah.
It's also good to start going up to level 4 on each of them first too.
Mm-hmm.
But that's basically like number one tip with those, and then you just kind of pick a region and just go for it. It's
Yeah.
gonna take a
Yeah.
while to get them done. Like I'm only
Yeah.
on level 8 on all of them, I think, except for one.
Yeah, it takes a little bit of time. I mean, but like you said, I think if it's like what I've been doing is kind of chunks of 4. Like I get something to 4, I go to the next one because I'm pretty sure like at 4 on every one. Let me see. Is it, 1, 2, 3, 4. It looks like it's a wild capsule, so I think you're kind of at least building out like multiple cards.
Mm.
I'm gonna check to see if that's true in all of them. Yeah, it looks that way. But I mean, so you're kind of at that point at least building enough of a set and everything that you get an idea of what to play. So if you see a good deck come online, you can really sit there and say, at least I have enough cards to somewhat make it. And then if you kind of like the play style of the deck that you're trying to build, then you say, okay, I'm going to stick with this region and I'm just going to keep building and keep grinding it out, because I love the way the region plays, which is kind of neat too, because at least in other card games, with maybe the exclusion of Magic, uh, every region plays very differently. Like you can definitely see like Noxus are typically much more aggro focused deck. You're
Yeah.
just going in and you're just banging things through. Demacia, it's like, hey, look, we're meant to take a lot of damage. We're going to buff up our units. We got a lot of tough units. We got a lot of challengers, so we're bringing you into the fight, which is cool because in the lore, like Demacia, it's like this like warring no magic city state. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like we
Swords
hate
and
magic. We're,
shields.
we're just here to sit there and fight, and it's
Yeah.
great. So like I like how they put that kind of attention to detail into it. But yeah, so we like that. Again, we did talk in currently in open beta. I believe they said at the time of full release, it's also going to be coming to mobile. Now, Kozer, I know you talked a little bit about, how you like constructed too. Uh, what are your thoughts on the current constructed game mode and how it's currently exists?
It's good right now. Like the ranking system seems well. Just in general, like it seems pretty good. There's a couple of decks right now that are really strong, and a couple of cards that are a little strong. So it makes the meta for now like kind of the same. But they did say that they are going to be constantly switching it, and even every month they might even be changing up the sets as well. So I'm hoping it's going to kind of be like TFT's doing now. Since the actual first season started, they've basically been changing the sets up.
Yeah, see, I mean, I'm definitely kind of feeling you. The one thing that I do like too is as you get to new ranks within the game, so it follows a similar situation as League. So you got bronze, silver, gold, plat. But every time you cross into a new barrier, so if you go from bronze to silver, you don't go back down to bronze. Like they say, hey, you've reached this, you've earned it, you can stay here. So it encourages you to really try different decks. It's not something like where you say, I don't want to drop back into bronze. I want to stay in silver. I want to stay in gold. So I got to keep playing this deck. You can sit there and say, now's a chance to kind of branch out. Like, let me see how the aggro deck is, or let me see how our more control focused deck is, without any kind of fear of repercussion, which is great. But like I said before too, I think my favorite mode right now is Expeditions. And which is really odd for me to say, Cozer, because I was never a fan of like Arena or anything in Hearthstone. Like,
really?
I avoided that like the plague. Like, it just always felt so bad that if I got what I considered was bad RNG in something like Arena, that my run would be over and I wouldn't get a decent reward. Like, I would just get maybe a booster pack, which again, a booster pack, you don't know what the heck you're getting out of it. It could be things that you have and it's not great, but the way the expeditions work here, which is similar to the arena mode, is you're picking not one card at a time, but you're picking chunks of 3. So they'll sit there and they all kind of have a theme. So like one may be a whole bunch of, I don't know, like elusive cards. So you're like, okay, here's 3 elusives, and you can start kind of crafting a deck around maybe 1 or 2 playstyles relatively easily. And what's nice about it too is you keep playing until you lose 2 in a row. So similar to other arena type games, the goal is to get to 7 wins. But as long as you don't lose 2 in a row on the way to 7, you keep running that trial. And the only time that changes is when you're going for your 7th win, because you get one shot at that. If you lose that, your run's over, and you go to the next trial or your expedition. And what a trial is again, you're trying to get to 7. But if you get out, like let's say you win 1 or 2 and then you lose 2 in a row, you could be like, oh, this sucks, I'm done. But you get another trial.
Yeah,
and
which is
the
nice.
expedition takes your best of 2, which to me is genius, because if you get bad RNG and you say, oh, the deck I thought I was building is great, turns out to be garbage, you get another chance. You can sit there and say, okay, I'm going to give us another go. And it takes your better of the 2. So if you make it to, round 6 on your first trial, but only round 2 on your second, you're getting rewards for 6, and no matter what, you're getting a random champion.
Is that I didn't actually know that. Is that you always get a champion?
You always get a champion. It increases the more wins you go up, but even if you go 0-0, trial 1 0 wins, trial 2 0 wins, you're getting at least 1 champion card, which is, I think, a token to play right now. The expedition is 300 gold, and I think a champion wild card is 300 gold, or the coins, which is their premium currency. So the downside is like, if you buy a wild card, you can craft it to whatever champion you want. But, even if you lose, you're still walking out of there with a champion.
Well, and you get a shit ton of shards, which is also another thing. Like, we didn't really talk about shards as much, but shards is another way. It works like a wild card. If you have enough shards, you just buy the card that you want, which is really nice. Like, that was one of my big issues with all the other card games. It felt like if I wasn't going to drop $200 on the game, which I wasn't because I was waiting for LOR to come out, I just couldn't play them because I just sucked compared to everyone. Because everyone else had the exact decks that they want. And this game, with the shards, the coins, everything, the limit on how much you're able to buy, it makes a big difference because not everyone's going to have OP cards all the time. And the weekly vault is huge because of how much stuff you get in it. Like, we've already gotten, two vaults? Or tomorrow will be the second vault?
I think this will be the second one tomorrow.
Yeah.
Because we're recording on Monday, and the vault's open Tuesday morning. So I think this is the second vault.
Yes, it is
this
actually.
week.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, it's neat. I mean, like I said, it's random, and some people are complaining about it. Like, and this is the part I don't get is, you know, you go to places like Reddit, and there are people that are sitting there saying like, "Oh, the vault, I'm not getting good enough rewards." I'm like, it's free. Like
They're
they're
getting
giving you
shards.
materials and they're giving you cards, and like last week I had a bronze chest, which is the lowest chest you can go, and not in my vault, but I think I earned it on one of the region paths,
Yeah,
and it
you got a
upgrades, and so
champion.
yeah, I got a champion out of it. Like
Fucker.
everything you get, it has the ability to like randomly upgrade, which is
Yeah,
awesome. So it's like, even if let's say you can't play that week and you get bronze chests, you may get a champion out of it. You know,
you never know.
I don't know what the odds are; they may be pretty low, but it's something that is like, hey, look, at least the game's giving me something, and giving me the ability to kind of progress and keep building the decks I need to. And honestly, I mean, this week again, I have a family. I don't get all that much time to play. I play a little bit every evening, maybe more when it comes to mobile, but this week, even just playing
Oh hell
relatively
yeah.
casually, I'm gonna end almost maxed out on my vault. You
Yeah.
know, which is 3 diamond chests. So I mean, it's not that hard to max out every week and get free stuff. So between that and I think every time once you get to I think it's the gold chest, Cozer, you may have to look up and correct me. You get an expedition token. So it's basically saying,
Yeah, I
hey,
think it's gold chest. I think it's gold. Yeah.
yeah, and so it's basically saying, hey, look, just for playing and getting to 300, you or getting to the point where you get an expedition token, that's basically them giving you the equivalent of real world currency to go in and dive in and do the expeditions. And what I think 300 coins is about $3. I think it's $5 to get 475 currently. So I
I don't
mean,
know. I'm Canadian, so prices are a little different for me than you.
okay, so I think it's $3 US probably. So basically they're saying, hey, here's $3. Thanks for playing. It's they're being very generous with, in my opinion, with the materials needed to build a deck. So it kind of counterbalances out that whole you're not gonna have,
Oh,
you know.
you cut out there
So,
for a second.
oh yeah, so it just kind of balances out that you're not going to be able to build everything for week one. Uh,
Yeah, for sure.
you know, so I kind of like that. But apart from that, the matches are pretty similar to a lot. You have an Nexus, it has 20 health. You're trying to get your opponent to 0 before you get to 0. But what's kind of different about it is two aspects. So it consists of an attack and defense round. Each round you're gaining mana, but if you don't spend mana during a round, it actually banks up to 3 of them for what they call as spell mana,
Yeah.
and that gives you the ability to play excess mana on a spell card only, so not a follower, not a champion, uh, any turn. So it adds a layer of strategy of saying, do I want to play this follower on my turn, or do I want to bank the 2 or 3 spell mana because I want to make sure next turn I can play this, and if they try to play a spell, I can deny it, or I can counter it, or I can do something to clear the board. But I'm gonna need to play like an 8 cost spell on turn 5. You know, so it really adds a pretty unique depth to the game, in my opinion.
Yeah, like Fiora Judgment. That's always
Oh
fun.
yeah.
Getting
Oh,
that by,
that's
I've literally won a game by round 5, I think, because of it.
well, and maybe for people that are new to the game, explain what that means.
So basically, what Judgment is when you use 8 mana, you put it down. If you have an enemy that is attacking you with a bunch of followers or champions or whatever, if you put someone like Fiora out with Judgment and use it, she will actually attack all of the enemy minions without them attacking her. So if she's able to wipe the board almost or kill 4 people, she automatically wins the game. That's what's nice about LOR is there's some other game mechanics sometimes that let you win the game, and I hope they add more like Fiora. Like maybe
Yeah,
not in the same set, but when they do new sets, they add like new game mechanics like that. Some
yeah,
people call it cheap, but like
like a
it's
one turn
really
kind of
hard to
win.
do it. It's really hard to do it. And there's a
Yeah,
lot of people that run Deny. Almost everyone's running Ionia, so
yeah,
it's hard.
yeah, and so like what Kozer's talking about too is like, so the champion cards, and I think the only follower in my that I know of is Senna, because I don't think she's a champion in this game.
No, I
She's
think
not
you're
okay.
right.
So she's the only follower I know of that has a level up mechanic off the top of my head. But the rest of them, all of the champions have a mechanic that is what's essentially leveling up. So Braum, for example, is if he survives 10 damage without dying, that he gets to level up, which basically brings him from an 05, I think, to an 07. But anytime he takes damage after that and doesn't die, he summons a 3/3 Mighty Poro on his side of the board. So, I mean, Kozer talks about Fiora, who is basically once she kills 4 units, she wins the game. It doesn't matter how much health is left on the enemy nexus or anything like that. So you see these Fiora decks where they're just throwing barrier after barrier after barrier and keeping her alive because she's the win condition. Whereas a Braum deck is more like, well, I'm just trying to pull your units off of, what
Heavy
otherwise I'd be
hitters.
blocking. Yeah.
Yeah.
And get through your smaller damage and things like that for your aggro decks.
And
Um,
buff him so that he actually does damage.
yeah, yeah, and in a lot of these too, you may be sitting there saying like, "Oh my God, Fiora 1 turn kill." How do you beat that, or how do you get through it? Because Braum also at the end of every round re-heals, so he gets all of his health back, where the rest of the cards don't. But there's cards on there that basically capture units. You can just send things back to people's hands. There's a lot of counterplay mechanics in here.
100%.
So I mean, it's definitely kind of cool in my mind as to what they do. But let me try to think. So I mean, we've kind of talked a little bit about the game. We've talked a little bit how we talked a little bit about the overall. Kozer, on the whole though, what do you like about the game? What don't you like? What would you like to see them expand more upon or kind of take back from?
Well, I love the artwork in this game.
Mm-hmm.
If you actually click on the cards and look at the artwork, like some of the artwork is actually
Oh
just
yeah.
being displayed right here, and it's just really detailed work. It's
Well,
really, really nice. I love
and
it.
it's one of those things too that I feel like a lot of people don't know because you may play a card and you're like, oh, okay, I see a port. But when you hover over it and you see that little eyeball icon and you click into it and you see like the lore that they wrote out for the card and the
Yep.
whole artwork, it is awesome. It is
It's a
really, really well
lot
done.
of work. They put a lot of work into that. So, I do I kind of do dislike how long it takes to build a deck. That's just because I'm an
Mm-hmm.
impatient person. But
Mm-hmm.
like, I understand why they do this. If they didn't have it the way that it is, people could have bots that would literally sit there and
Mm-hmm.
surrender. Like, we didn't. I don't think we touched upon it, but you are
No, we didn't.
maxed to a certain amount of XP that you can earn per day, and because of that, you can't just sit there and unlock crate upon crate upon crate. Like when I
Yeah.
did the beta, I actually finished a whole region in only a week of play because I didn't do any other region. And I don't think I could do that right now if I did it because the XP would just be way too hard to get. Whereas I
Mm-hmm.
don't think there was a cap in beta if I remember, or if it was, it was not really that noticeable.
I can't remember how it was early in beta, but I definitely feel like it was a lot more generous. But I think that was
Hmm.
very much because the devs were trying to basically see like, hey, what cards are broken? Because I feel like in beta I had it for like 3 days before they turned off
Yeah,
access.
yeah, you got
Which
fucked.
killed me because you were in it forever, and I was like,
I
just
know. I was telling you
just
about it
play.
every day, like showing you
It,
pictures of it, showing you
it was
stuff.
it was killing me. But like in those 3 days, I think I 4 or 5 like S tier decks, and
Yeah,
then it was gone. I'm like, oh my god! I was like, this is great. I can't wait to like have these cards back. And like, oh no, and oh no, and
yeah, I
and
was
I don't
really
think it's
salty
gonna
about
be
that.
as generous. So like me personally, like I'm trying to get back to building my Teemo deck, even though it's not currently in the meta. It's just such a trolly deck and so much fun to play that I would just play that nonstop.
Yeah,
Uh,
no, for sure. So the only other thing that I would say, well, let me give one more dislike and
mm-hmm.
then so I don't like it how Riot has went away from including Legends of Runeterra in the launcher. I think that they need to kind of copy Blizzard. Blizzard did do one thing right of putting all of their games into one launcher so that hey, when you're tilting because you're losing in league and you can't rank up and you are fucking pissed, it would be nice to switch to a game like, I don't know, TFT and not have it in the same game of League of Legends. And oh, you don't want to do that? Oh, let's play the fighter game that Riot's coming out
Mm-hmm.
with, or let's play
Mm-hmm.
LOR. I really do hope that they do that eventually. It might be happening. It's really early right now,
I'd
but
have to, yeah, I'd have to go back and listen. I remember there was a reason why they didn't. I think it was something that had to do because it's coming to mobile and like all that. That they said, hey, we have to have the currencies separate,
currency,
because
yes,
that's one of my
yes.
things too that I hate is like I may be sitting on a lot of RP and League, and it means nothing here. Uh, but I'm pretty sure that was their rationale, saying like, look, because we have to have so many separate systems, it made sense to have it in its own separate kind of launcher. But again, I'm not 100% sure. I'd have to go back and watch
Yeah,
the
because
dev video on that.
I don't think that because Blizzard technically we played Heroes of the Storm. So when
Mm,
I played Heroes of the Storm, if I wanted to purchase something in game, I had to spend money. It had its own currency. It had its own things. Then when I switched over to StarCraft, it had its own things.
yeah,
I think they wanted to originally. I do remember them talking about it. They wanted to originally make the RP throughout
yeah,
all of the games, but they can't. They
yeah.
can't do that because of legal reasons. The lawyers say it's not possible to do. They have to have
Yeah.
different currencies for each one. And you're right, because of mobile, they're really strict. But they can have all the games in the launcher. They
Yeah.
should. They
Yeah.
should.
I mean, maybe that'll come one day. I mean,
Yes.
if that the way I view it though is if that's your biggest gripe is that you have to have another shortcut on your desktop, hey, I'm okay with that.
Oh, no, no, no. That's like it's a dislike
Yeah.
because I feel like it's taken away from the game. That I like there might be some
Yeah.
people that honestly just don't even know about Legends of Runeterra right now and might be
Hmm.
just starting to hear about it, but if they were playing League and they saw it there, they'd be like, "Oh, open beta. Let's
Yeah,
play
they
this."
do have it on the main launcher window right now, but like you said, it's temporary. I'm sure Legends of Runeterra isn't going to be on the main splash forever.
No.
It's one
100%.
of those things that it will fade off into the existence. So yeah, I think you're right that they're going to have to find a good way to continue marketing for this game, because that's honestly a concern that I think some people have, is that card games like this come and go so quickly
Mhm.
that people may say this is great, but if you don't find a way to basically get a strong foothold in an oversaturated market, um that you're just going to kind of fade. And I don't want to jump too much into next week's episode, because we are going to talk about this, because they did talk during a interview with PC Gamer
Yes.
about this fear that some people have, is saying like, how are you going to continue to
Keep the game
be
alive.
relevant.
Yeah.
So they did address it, but yeah, I do share that concern, because of like, if it's not in the same launcher, how are you going to continue to market and make people aware of what a great game it is, because me and you both kind of love it.
And another thing, so I did two dislikes, one like. I should probably think of another like. Another thing I like about the game is, I mean, I'm gonna kind of contradict. Like, I hate that it takes so long to build stuff, but I also like that there is a cap on
Hmm.
how much you're able to buy, because I currently right now cannot spend thousands of dollars to buy all the cards in the game, and
Yeah.
because of the way that the mechanics work, you literally spend money and buy the exact card you want. Not have to, like Smithel was talking about, not have to go through booster packs. So I definitely do like the way that it is. And
Yeah, yeah. I get what you're saying. Like, it is frustrating that when you're the one going through it, going like, I only need these three cards and I can't get them until next week. That's kind of frustrating, but it is good to know that you're going up against people and you'll see them play a card and you go, why the heck? Like, I know what deck you're playing. Why is that in there? And you go, oh, they're locked out too.
yeah,
They're basically trying to fill. So that is kind of nice knowing that everybody's suffering the same way. And I think that for a whole, it's forcing people to get a little bit more creative,
yes.
because I think we're seeing decks that we probably never would have seen, but somebody was like, oh, I need to throw in, oh, I don't know, a what's it, the what's that shark, the great white shark. I hate
Oh
that thing.
shit, what's it?
I forget the name of it, but it's basically a shark that, like, once it's dead, it's an
Ethereal.
elusive. It's a card that when you play it and it attacks, or doesn't, I guess at the end of the round it just dies. But then every time you attack with another ethereal card, it's gonna
Shark
appear.
Chariot.
Yeah,
That's
that's
what
it.
it's
Shark
called.
Chariot. Oh, I hate that thing. it's just because you're like, no matter what I have on board, I'm gonna have to, sacrifice a unit or have a resource available to deal with it, and I can't permanently take it off the board unless I find a way to remove its keywords, which are ways, in advance. So I mean, it's a cheap card to play. They get it out relatively early, and it's just coming at you for 3-1, every turn. So that gets a little bit much. But anything else, Koza, or if you kind of gotten out all your
Well, I got.
thoughts on that?
Well, I want to hear your thoughts on your
So
likes and your dislikes, not just
yeah, so
mine.
so for me, it's I think I'm a little more forgiving. Like in the most part, I'm very much like it's only been a week. It's only been a week. Let's see how it goes. So I don't get too wrapped up on anything. I know, like I said, I talked about expeditions. I love that you get 2 trials. That's probably my favorite thing. I think that's the reason why I'm going to spend a ton of time in expeditions this season, or I guess multiple seasons, is because of that. You know, it's not just 3 losses. I could literally go win loss win loss win loss win loss win loss all the way down to 7 and be fine. And then even if I do get 2 losses right away, I get that chance again to sit there and say, okay, I thought I was going to do good with Demacia and Ionia, but I can't. Something about it isn't working for me, or I'm not playing it well. So let me try to see if I can get something better, and really dig in, and just know that it's going to be my best take. I love that. I love the constructed play right now. I like the ability. I think I'm one of those people that I get that it feels bad that you can't build everything you want right away, but having to force me, because I'm not one of those people that can build decks. Like, I give people like Swim and everybody credit, like the pros that can just sit there and look at the card collection and go, this card and this card work really well together. This card and this card work really well together. Or this one doesn't have a lot of value, so you don't want it. I can't do that. So like whenever I see the collections that or the decks that people make, it amazes me. But I love the fact that if I don't have all the cards, it kind of forces me to start thinking like that. Because I've never been forced to before. It would just be, okay, I don't have the collection. I'll just dump $20, buy a couple boosters, hopefully get enough to make it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's kind of cool because it kind of is like a training aid in my mind. It's kind of
Oh yeah,
saying,
I'm
hey,
getting
you may
so
not
much better
be,
at making decks now.
yeah, like you may not be a deck building professional, but guess what? You're not going to have all the cards. Find out, is this an aggro deck? What cards do you have that are aggro that you can put in here? How do you make it work? So I kind of like that training aid. The things I don't like right now, and I know that they're kind of working to address it, is that I have some minor gripes with the UI. I hate whenever you're in kind of building a deck that I can't see how many of a card I currently have, very clearly. I don't like that I have to go to the store to see how many wild cards I currently have available, to use when I'm building a deck. So it's tough to know, like, if let's say I import a deck from online, if I say, okay, Swim put out this great deck, I want to see if I can build it. And it's like, okay, I'm missing some cards. I don't easily see how many I'm missing, and I don't see how many wild cards or shards that I have to build it until I click into it and start kind of messing it into it on a more granular level. So if they kind of took what is in the store currently at the very top and make it in such a way that that's just on my collection page, that's going to help me out a lot. Because then I'll really know how far off I am building a deck before, I give it a lot of effort. So I think that's currently my biggest gripe. So I'm interested to see what they do about it, or kind of what the workarounds are going to be.
Yeah. Yeah, I 100% agree with that.
Yeah, so, but I mean, it's like I said, it's all pretty much minor gripes. But I mean, it's
I mean,
there's
you and
lots of
all of Reddit are basically on the same page, but they have basically they've seen everyone post on Reddit with the UI,
yeah.
and they're aware of it.
Yeah, they're working on
And
it.
honestly, I'm not really surprised the way it's set up right now because it's not mobile friendly this game, and I guarantee you, right when the game's going to be launched, they're going to be completely changing the UI. They literally talked about it in the actual article. So one thing I'll
Mhm.
talk about this week is that they did say they are aware of the issue. They were focusing on gameplay mechanics for the open beta. They did not care about what the UI looked like. So it's great that
Yeah.
there's a lot of good UI artists that are on Reddit that are showing Riot how the game should look. They're aware of it and probably will fix it. I'd be
Yeah,
very surprised if they don't.
it's funny. Like I would love to be the person that's working at Riot that, as people are sitting here complaining, like this is what your UI should look like, that just has like the mock-up on his desktop going, or I guess his or her desktop going, yeah,
Yeah,
like I
come
know,
on
like
now.
this is like I'm staring at what you made. It's just it's not coming out yet.
Yeah, it
'Cause,
would be hilarious. And
like that.
development teams are like that all the time. I
Oh yeah.
remember Call of Duty, the dev teams a lot of the time are very vocal, and I remember they'd always be like, "Dude, we've been working on this. Like, we've been working on this since you guys have started complaining about it.
Hmm.
Like, it
Yeah.
has been 2 months. We are working to try to solve the problem. We are aware of it. Stop telling us about it. We will fix
No.
it. We promise."
No.
And then they don't
Yeah.
fix it.
So speaking of kind of like favorites too, like we've had enough time to mess. Do you have like a favorite region? Do you have somewhere that like you're just saying I love the cards in here?
My favorite region has to probably be Ionia, just the deny and just everything. Like my favorite deck that I can't currently play because it's not very strong against certain stuff has to be Yasuo. I love that
Mhm.
deck. The stun cards, the control from those decks, it's just a very long deck to ramp up and it can take quite a while to get exactly what you want. You basically got to be handed a perfect set and then you get it done.
Mhm.
But my second favorite is probably Fiora, but my deck is not like my deck was made from basically when the first like the beta expedition came out and
Mhm.
meta's changed a little bit since then. A lot of people
Yeah.
have realized how strong elusives are and how strong
Mhm.
control decks are. The
Mhm.
one deck I'm surprised that I have not seen is Anivia and Tryndamere. There used to be a control deck with Anivia Tryndamere and it used to always be ran and I don't know why.
Week one I ran it or something similar to it pretty
Braum Anivia, yeah.
regularly. Yeah, I mean it still has a place. I think I is it I think there's one called War Mother's Control or called the War Mother or something like that, and it focuses around that card that it's a 12 mana card, and again the most mana you can have
10
is 10,
mana.
but then you get the 3 spell mana, so you can still play it out for 12. But basically, what it does is
Oh, I
it's
know
the
which card you're
only
talking about. Yeah,
yeah
yeah. Yeah.
it's the only one of its type that I know of in game that at the beginning of every round, it's just whatever your next ally is in your deck, it just summons it. So basically, the whole point is just control the board as long as you can, get this card out, get free summons, and then just start overwhelming. So I mean, I think that was one of the ones that played well into that. I'd have to go back and look at the beta decks and see if that's exactly how
Yeah,
it works.
that was the one with the Anivia Tryndamere. That was one of my favorite cards. The only problem with that deck is if you're playing against an aggro deck, it does lose, and there are a lot of aggro decks
Yeah.
because you have to get to 10 mana, and some games
Mm-hmm.
can be lost before 10 mana. So you just
Mm-hmm.
it's hard. Like I really like Ionia and probably
Yeah.
Freljord.
Yep.
Yeah, that those are my favorite. And then, what about you? What are your
Yeah, I
favorites?
love Freljord. I mean, I've always been more of like a control deck kind of person, and Freljord just has a lot of cards around that. I mean,
And
in my opinion,
Poros.
yeah, I do love Poros. I mean, the Poro deck is something that I'm slowly building, uh, and it's just to me, it's a deck that has a little bit of everything. I kind of view it as like the jack of all trades, master of none's kind of region, which I'm sure if somebody from Riot ever listens to this, I apologize because you're going to say it's the master of whatever. But it's they have a lot of cards that buff up other enemy units. It has a lot of things that are just built to sit there and just get beefy followers and champions on the board. I mean, like I said, I mentioned Braum all the time. It's because probably my favorite card in the game right now. He's an 05. I mean, and there's enough cards in Freljord that, like, hey, you can make him an 07. You can sit there and throw an Omen Hawk down that gives your top 2 allies in deck +1/+1. That if Brahm's up top, now you're looking at a 1/6, so he can actually dish out a little bit of damage and then keep
Inspiring
healing.
Mentor, too.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like you got things like what is it? Avaros and Marksman that you play that just does 1 damage. So when you're going up against these aggro decks, you can slowly chip away at like Elise's spiders that are typically 1/1 or 2/1s or something. You can frostbite enemies so they don't have damage. It's very control heavy. That to me it just feels good that you're just like, hey, I'm gonna dictate the pace of the game, and then if you let me get to 10 mana, I'm just gonna start unleashing, just these massive units like Alpha Wildclaw, who's a 7/6 with Overwhelm.
Yeah.
Which basically just says, hey, look, if I get through your health, whatever is additional is going to be dealt to your Nexus. So there's a lot of cool units like that I think is in that region that, I think as I keep getting more cards, I'm going to keep building into it, just because I like those slower paced games. I like the ones where you're saying, I'm not just going to put down whatever's in my hand and go hit face. It's, I'm thinking out everything. I'm making you think about it, or you waste your followers and play the style of game I want, because if not, I'm just going to start hitting hard, so I definitely kind of like that. And so I've been playing a lot of it. Like, I know the deck currently out right now. I keep mentioning Swim a lot because I think he's a great player of the game. He puts out a lot of good tutorial videos on YouTube. He puts out a lot of great decks. But he has one called Swim's Ultimate Control, and that's a Shadow Isle Freljord deck. I play a lot of that. I have one that I call Elusive Frosty. It's a Ionia Freljord deck. It's kind of my take on another one that exists, but I had to replace a lot of cards that I didn't have. I have an aggro deck. It's a deck by 5. But I made a couple replacements. That's Freljord. So I try to put that in as much as I can. But so you said you're playing pretty much Ionia right now?
Well, not just Ionia, like Demacia, all that. Like, I have a couple of decks. My main decks I am running right now are an elusive deck with Brahmin Zed, and basically it's just overloading your board with elusives, ignoring damage from the enemies, and just trying to override them with elusives. I have made a couple of alterations to it, like adding Dawn to it, which makes ephemerals. I never can say it.
Ephemeral, yeah, I know.
Ephemeral. Ephemeral. There we go. Ephemeral. And what's nice with that is if you have the elusive, I don't remember the name. It's the dragon that's 6/5. You can literally get 100, or you can get 16 damage of elusive out on the board, which is just nuts. The only problem is a lot of people. I was struggling at the starting when the game came out, and Smithel's DMs can attest to that, of me getting really salty of losing. But once I made an elusive deck and just started, you know what, I'm just going to stop going against the grain and trying to make my Yasuo deck work and just make an elusive deck or a control deck, I started winning.
Yeah, it definitely feels like right now it's if you can't beat them, join them kind of thing.
Yeah, unfortunately.
And so it's like, look, you're either going to play elusives or you're going to play things that, are challenger cards that are just going to force the elusives to fight.
Yeah, exactly.
So it does have some counters, and I'm sure we're going to see more over the next
100%.
couple weeks. But yeah, it's right now elusives are tough to deal with, but I think there's some things definitely in the game that you can probably work around them. So hopefully that just becomes a little bit easier as time goes on.
Shadow Isles, though, those are some bitches right there. Those are
Shadow Isle's rough. Shadow Isle can be real rough because they're just super
I can't run it. I lose all the time with it. Like, every
Yeah.
time I try to run Shadow Isles, I swear to God I lose. I have 3 or 4 decks right now that I'm looking at that have it. And I played one deck, you laughed at the name of it. It was called the Annoying deck. And it had Elise in it. And I was just running it for a little bit until I could build another deck of mine. And it was the only one I did well with. But it's because it had Frel in it. That's what I'm convinced.
Yeah, I mean, they're just super aggro-y. I mean, but they game like also Thunder, he's I assume it's a he. It's kind of like a ghost thing, but basically, if an ally dies, you get to kill two of the weakest enemies in the enemy's board, and it
Yeah,
doesn't
that
matter what
one's
that is. That could be like an 8-5 and a 7-3. They're both going down. So it has a lot of cards that definitely play well into either the aggro or
that card
control
needs to be
style.
worked on. 100%. That is one of the
Rasa,
cards. Yeah,
Ross is rough. Like anytime I go
maybe
against
one.
Shen, see, I'm okay with two. It's just you have to anticipate it. Like you have to know, okay, I'm playing Shadow Isle. It's getting late game. I'm gonna assume Ross is on board. I'm gonna hold back a couple low power guard or low power followers, and just at the end of my turn, flood the board with them. That way it's if I kill something, they're there, they take the hit. But
I
yeah,
get that, but sometimes you can't.
it's tough.
There's so many things in that deck, Shadow of Isles, that literally helps kill their own characters, and all they have to do is kill a 1/1 spider. It's a really frustrating mechanic to deal with. That's why I said is maybe not killing two, maybe killing one. I would be a little better with, but like literally wiping a board and then putting the commander out. I think that's what his name is. That literally cuts your Nexus in half. Like. Fucking, are you kidding me? In 2 turns, your board's gone, and they're also insanely strong. Like they have a lot of power. I think between both of them, I think one has 7, the other one has 8. So it's like that's a lot of damage. That could literally win them the game if they wipe your board. Of course, he shows up right on the screen right now, in the top right.
Yep. He's a champion kind of card. He's rough to play against. I mean, and plus it's like when he dies too. He goes back to hand. So it's like
like what the
first
fuck?
It's like you take him from 20 to 10. You play it again. They're going to 10 to 5. Then they're going 5 to 3. Then 3 to like 1. It's like 3 turns. You have them down to just like, hey, look, you make any mistake, you're getting out.
And you only have a such thing as 3 denies. And at that point, late game, you've probably used at least 1 to 2.
Yeah.
And a lot of decks right now are actually only using 2 denies. They're actually removing the extra deny out because that's what Swim and a lot of the pros are recommending. Yeah, I still usually run 3 denies just because I really hate losing.
Yeah, I feel like I use my 3 denies every time. I mean, I'll have
the same.
But I mean, we talk about Swim too, and kind of moving into. Because I know we're starting to run a little bit late here.
Yeah, it's been about an hour.
One of the things that we're going to be focusing on next week is, like I said, every week we're going to try to really dig into a deck, talk a little bit about the cards that are in it, why they're important, why they work well with the deck. And we're going to try to focus especially on ones that are in meta or done by some of the bigger name players that have been put out. And so the first one we're going to focus on is Swim's Elusive Burn deck. We will have the deck code, the link to his Mobalytics site, the link to his page, all that kind of stuff in the show notes next week. That way you can go and support him and basically see exactly why he likes it and that. But we're going to break down his explanation, the cards that are going into it, why it's in meta, at least at this current time. I don't know if it'll still be full meta in a week, 2 weeks. I know Riot's been big about saying like that's their goal is to have this meta shift all the time. But, even if you're listening to this a month down the road and you say, hey, I'm looking for a deck I can build, and I'm new to the game, maybe you have the cards for this. It may not be meta at the time, but I bet you'll at least be able to climb out of bronze with it. It's a great deck. It's something that I'm playing a lot of. So we'll be doing a lot of that too. Before we start getting into all the plugs, Cozer, any last thoughts, anything that you want to kind of, dig into here?
Well, one thing is we keep talking about Mobalytics and basically like where to build these decks. So 2 good websites right now that me and Smithel have actually been using is Mobalytics. I'm not going to spell it out for you. You can just Google it, right? Mobalytics.
Mobalytics, yep.
It's pretty straightforward. If you start writing it in, the website's also for TFT and also League of Legends, so you'll be able to find it pretty easily. And then there's also another one that we've been using called Decks of Runeterra. A lot of the top players are using that one as well. So try those out. You should be able to find quite a bit of decks that have been built that are saying high win rates and stuff like that. And hopefully it will help you win.
Yeah, it was nice too. Is like I said, all those big name people, like you can actually look up. Like if you say, "Hey, I'm looking for Swim," or I'm
Tides
looking
of Time.
for or like Poros or somebody. like you can find their deck. They're posting it there, and that it's kind of
Yeah.
what's neat about this community. And like I guess most of the time, card games in general is people are pretty open with saying, "Hey, this is what I'm running, and it's working." You
Yeah,
know,
they don't
they're
hide it
encouraging you.
unless it's a tournament. Then they might have some
Well, yeah,
alterations, but
that's different.
there's not
But
enough
typically after
cards in this
tournaments, you
game
see them
yet.
come out.
Well,
You know,
exactly. But
yeah,
also, this game hasn't been out long enough. There's not like in Hearthstone. There's literally like thousands of cards. Like, yes, they'll ban a couple of them for events, but like, there's literally so many cards to pick from. And in this game, there's not that many yet. Like, there will be.
yeah.
I don't know
Well,
if they're gonna.
and that's something I know we're gonna talk about like next month, but I think they said their goal is every month or something to release something major, especially after new release. And I think it's supposed to be like every month to release a new region and like a whole new set of cards.
Yeah.
Uh, I don't know how long it's gonna last. If it's something for at the very beginning, again, we'll have to go find exactly where that comes out. And I know we're gonna talk about it next week, but it's one of those things that if they release even half as frequently of that, that's huge. Like if I'm looking at a whole new region, and a region consists of a couple dozen cards at least, uh, you know, I'm gonna be okay. This meta is gonna shift so frequently
Yeah.
that you're always gonna have to be on your toes. You're not gonna just say, okay, I'm just gonna run my aggro deck, all day for 4 months. Like that's one of the things too
Elusives.
with Hearthstone that I hate. Like I feel like I could walk away from Hearthstone, come back 6 months later,
Same meta.
and play my same deck and probably do just as fine. This one I feel like it's gonna really force you to be on your toes of saying, hey, look, I may play the same cards, but I'm gonna replace half of them with just what just came out, or I'm going to, work in a different region. Like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna pull out Ionia and put in, whatever the new region is. So
Well, that's
that'll
what I'm
kind of neat to do.
kind of like. I was looking over all the regions when we were actually making the Discord account, and there's a lot of regions. Like, I didn't get the lore book like you. There's a
Yeah.
lot of regions that
There-
I'm
there-
gonna be impressed to see, and a lot of characters that I literally forgot. Like, I've played League, but there is so many characters. How many characters do we even have in this? Maybe 40.
Yeah, there's some big ones that have been Riot staples. Like you have like a Moo in League, Riot staple for so long. He's not even in here yet.
Yeah, but
You
he
know,
took a
so,
while to get in TFT too. He didn't come out until set. I don't think Amumu
He just
came out
came out
until
this
set
set.
too.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
he
was
just
like
came out
set
this
two.
set. And like
Yeah.
even then, it wasn't like he came out a little bit into it.
Yeah. So I don't know.
But I mean, like, yeah. So there's some big name people in League that still aren't in this game. So I'm chomping at the bit to see exactly what their thoughts are. Because like I said,
Yeah.
similar to the dev with the UI on their desktop right now, there's a whiteboard somewhere in this world with like every champion written out, and like what could their base be, and then what could their level up ability be? Or like we talked about Senna not being a champion and just being a follower card.
Yeah.
Are you going to see things like that? Are you going to see like is Nunu going to be a card, and is Willem going to be a card? Or is Nunu going to be a card, and then you have Nunu and Willem to be the leveled up version? Something
Is
like
Annie
that.
going to be OP in this game as well?
Yeah, like is is Annie gonna play, and then when she levels up, she summons like a 6/6 Tibbers or something, that has challenge.
Fuck.
Like,
Yeah. No. Now, okay. Yeah. I don't want to talk about that. That's too crazy.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much that they can do with some of the champions that are in League that it's gonna be kind of cool to see what they kind of move from.
Super excited for that. Well, I guess we should do our plugs, and this pod's been going on for a little while, and
yeah. So where can everybody find you, Cozer?
Well, on Twitter, Cozer88, on Twitch, Cozer_88, and then I should start uploading to YouTube again, YT Cozer88, but I haven't been uploading much lately.
That's okay. Yeah. So myself, if you're looking to find me, you can find me on Twitter at Smithel Gaming. You can also, if you just search for Smithel across Twitch, I believe it's there too. Or if you just go to my Twitter, account, you'll find the links. It's twitter.tv/Smithel. I'm there as well. Like I said, we are on Discord. We're everywhere that you're looking for us.
Smithel Gaming. For your Twitter,
Gaming.
Yes, for your Twitter account.
Yep. And you'll see right in there the Twitch link is there. Again, we did talk a little bit about if you're trying to get both of us at once, the best place to do it is going to be the Weakly Poro Report Twitter account, which is at Poro Weekly. And again, that's POROWEAKLY, weekly, like week, like you're not strong, not weak, like time of week, like 7 days. So, go follow us there at Poro Weekly. You will find links to all the shows, the Discord. You will find show notes. You'll find everything that you need to see exactly, what we did and, how we got to where we wanted to get to. Again, if you do stumble across us on YouTube, on iTunes, anything like that, any platform that you're able to give us a review, a 5-star review would be greatly appreciated, especially here at the beginning, as it will kind of help let us build our rankings and kind of keep progressing up through here. Again, currently there's been no talk or any plans on our mind to charge or anything like that for the podcast. So this is just a love letter to the fans. But again, as we do continue to grow and develop, hopefully we'll be able to have some tournaments for you guys to participate in.
Yeah.
And kind of really bring some value to you guys and just tuning in and listening to us. But again, keep an eye on the Twitter. That's basically the one-stop shop for everything that you need to know. But other than that, Cozer, any last thoughts?
Don't forget about the Discord channel. Yeah. Join the Discord channel.
Join the Discord. Again,
we're trying to grow a community. It's important. It's any
new,
questions?
It's new. It's kicking off. This would be actually a great time to join it because you could actually be part of the development of it. Of saying, hey, I feel like this would be something that would be great to have here. Obviously, we would love to hear from you. It's a community. It's not something like a dictatorship where we plan on just rolling out our thoughts. So, if the community thinks something would be great, we would love to hear about it and, love to consider it as we grow. So again, we're here for you. We plan on doing this just because we love it. And hopefully you guys stick around for episode 1. We are planning on releasing it here in a couple of days. So if you're hearing this, episode 1's either out or will be out shortly. So, stay tuned. But I think that's all for me, Cozer.
Yeah, that's all for me. Thanks for watching, guys.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Appreciate it. And we'll see you next week.